try kicking off the new season with a new little intro thanks to the buzz for the music. They don't know it yet, but I'll let them know. But Randy's back. Fletch is back. It's a 2021 season. Hopefully we're going to get it all in with fans. And what a summer it has been, Randy. My gosh. Who would have thought? I would have never thought that when we do our first show that name, image, and likeness would have been an afterthought. But nobody's talking much about that right now with everything else that's gone on. So, how's your summer been?
I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me at all? He can't hear me. This is not good. I don't know why he can't hear me. Oh boy, live. You gotta like live TV. Play with your headphones. See if your headphones are. I don't know why you can't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
But you can't hear me. I don't know why.
Yeah. I couldn't. Why. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It shut off for a minute.
But can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, sweet. You're back. Good. Well, anyways, I was just saying how crazy the summer's been, and name, image, and likeness I thought would be the big topic of it. It's totally been completely put to bed by SEC expansion, and now they're talking conference alliances today in the big news. So before we get it on to that, how's your summer been?
Oh, it's been good. It's been real hot. Spent a lot of time at the pool. And that's been about it for me.
You ready for football in a couple weeks?
Oh, I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time.
No doubt, no doubt. Let's see, I got a host of things we can get into here, so I might as well get into it. By the way, did you hear the new intro? When I played the intro, did you hear that, or did your sound cut out?
No, I didn't get to hear all of that.
Okay, we'll have to next week we can get into it. But got some new music, got our names on there, so we're upgrading ourselves. So anyways, name, image, and likeness I thought was just going to be huge. With you're hearing about guys millions of dollars and not even out of high school yet, and so but all of a sudden Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC came out a few weeks ago, and now that's just kind of changing the narrative, if you will. The SEC's got 16 teams as of 2025. That is
right.
And let's see. My thing here. It's basically what they're calling the nation's first super conference. A lot of people speculated we're going to end up with 4 16-team conferences for this mega power premium football league that's going to tell the NCAA to take a hike and do it on their own. Who knows if we're headed to that, But that's so far into the future, we have no idea if that's even going to fruition in our lifetime. But, the Big 12 is all of a sudden scrambling. They're wondering what the heck's going to go on, what's going to happen to them. Are they going to fragment? Are they going to try to gobble up like a Cincinnati and a Houston, They still got some decent teams in that league. Oklahoma State's a decent team, TCU, West Virginia,
right.
Iowa State. But no Power 5 teams as of 2025. Powerhouses, I should say, like Oklahoma and Texas. And in football, Texas really is scrambling, but they're definitely a program that can get there. They just haven't gotten there. So today the big announcement was the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. They're kind of leaking that they're going to announce a big alliance next week. Big announcement. And, a lot of speculation on what does it mean. My guess is, and this is just my guess, it's usually about the money. The SEC, with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, when they start playing their regular season games, they're going to be filled. Granted, that's 5 years from now or so, 4 years from now. Who knows what happens in the next 4 years? But theoretically, on paper, they're going to be filling their regular season schedules with great matchups. Marquee matchups are going to be TV ratings, and that's what drives the whole thing here is the almighty dollar, and the TV ratings is what brings in the big bucks. So I'm thinking that those 3 conferences are aligning. They're not combining themselves, but they're talking about trying to work with each other and getting marquee matchups between them, basically to counteract the SEC, because there's only so many out-of-conference games you're going to play, so they got to try to figure something out. That's just my guess. Who really knows? I can't see those 3 making a big, huge conference that goes from California to North Carolina, whatever, or Florida. That would just be insane. But So, but it is all about the money. So I don't know if you heard that announced today, but if you did, what was your take on all that with the SEC, the ACC, Big Ten, and the Pac-12?
Yeah, I did hear about that. I seen a little bit about it. I mean, I think that's, I mean, if this thing with the SEC goes through with Oklahoma and Texas, which I mean, it looks like it's going to,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost going to have to be exactly what you said. There's almost going to have to be, you know, two or three big conferences, and I don't know how good that is for college football. And you're right.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. That's what it's going to come down to. But it's going to have a big effect on recruiting also,
Oh yeah.
because the other teams are going to almost have to do that, because otherwise everybody's going to say, hey, I'm a 4 or 5 star guy. I'm going to the SEC where I'm going to get the most looks and play the competition of the top level guys. So, I don't personally, I don't really like it, but I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, my initial thought was, man, let's just pump the brakes because the SEC is on an incredible run, somewhat historic run, pretty much led by Alabama when it comes to these championships. In football, I'm just talking. Yes, they're great in other sports too, and that's no slouch. But we're just talking about the football, which is the big moneymaker. But so many years ago, the SEC wasn't as dominant, and the Big Ten was dominant, and Pac-12, not too many years. Remember Pete Carroll? They were dominant. Yeah, they broke some rules, but who doesn't? Nebraska was a hugely dominant team way back in the Tom Osborne days and stuff. So, to me, it's like this stuff is it goes in cycles, and eventually, not that it's all Nick Saban, but eventually Nick Saban's going to retire. And somebody's going to take his place. Just like Urban Meyer retired, just other people. So you just don't know. I mean, Bo Schembechler retired. He was replaced by Gary Moeller, who wasn't very good. And then they got Lloyd Carlin, and he was really good until Tressel. And now Michigan's really down. So, I think it just all goes in cycles. I say leave it alone and just let it run its course, and everybody will get good again in their own time. But it is very different now because it just wasn't the recruiting market like it is now back in those days. And with the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, it's beginning to sound a lot like the NFL when it comes to the money and the free agency, guys jumping teams. Ohio State's got a ton of really good prospect wide receivers. I can almost guarantee half of those guys aren't going to be on the team in a couple of years. And that's not just because they're going to the NFL or whatever. They're going to, the fastest guy on the team last year is now at Alabama. So what does that tell you? He's going somewhere where he feels like he's going to have more playing time. That's what it is. And, from one power team to another power team, then it's all about playing time. And they got a bunch of quarterbacks. Probably 2 or 3 of those guys are going to move around because they're not going to be the starter. And, I can't blame them. You want to start if you think you got an NFL chance, So it's just a fine line, but the allegiances to the teams and the traditions, it just seems like it's really withering away. Unless you're just a diehard who wants to go to that school no matter what, they're going to go where they think they can get their best shot at the NFL. So
that's true, and especially the Ohio State, all those all those big quarterbacks coming in. I can't believe that they're all going to stay there, and then we have this NIL thing that's going to come into effect, because then they're going to go where they can make the most money as an individual player. What program can offer me whatever. It's going to become it's really going to become a hot mess. All about money, not only for the universities but for the players. So a guy named Kool-Aid that plays for Alabama finds out he can go to Ohio State and because something is there that's going to guarantee him close to $1 million, because that's what we're seeing some of these guys signing on for. And so I just really think this is going to become a can of worms. I guess it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, out of the chaos, I heard one really neat thing, somewhat turning garbage into potpourri or whatever, poop into potpourri. And that was that I heard that BYU, the school, got with some local, I don't know what, and they kind of leveraged the thing where any walk-on, that's
Hi,
my
Daddy.
daughter, okay, every walk-on on the team gets their tuition paid for through NIL from a local sponsor. I
Right.
thought that was pretty cool. I mean, they're kind of spreading it around. That's neat, And still, the guys can get their own deals, but the school is kind of using the NIL to at least get everybody. And that's just on football. We're not talking lacrosse and all that. Those people are getting the shaft sometimes. So it's very interesting. I'm sure at some point, and this is not a sexist remark, the women are going to come out, and feel like, I should say, they will probably want to make sure they're getting equal NIL and all that, and as they should, so to speak, even though the argument is, what does your sport bring in, with the TV ratings and all that. It could be a huge mess. It really could be. And so that was speculative, or not really, it was kind of like, why did BYU get involved like that? I think they did a great thing, but they might have set themselves up for a huge lawsuit because they're getting involved and bringing the money to their players. But what about the rest of the athletes in the other sports? But
Yeah, I seen one program. The quarterback had signed on, and he was going to share the money with some other players on the team, some of the linemen, and that kind of thing.
I did hear that. I can't remember what school it was. But
Yeah, I
did
couldn't
hear
either.
that.
So
But and that's really cool because the school's not involved. It's the guy doing it. And he wants to be cool to his friends and players, and I think that's going to create a really nice locker room environment for that team, whoever they are and wherever they play. There's no doubt. Because if you're a third-year junior on a team, and here comes some punk freshman, and he's already got $1 million in his pocket, and he ain't even set foot on the field. Because there's the guy for Ohio State that just quit high school and joined the Buckeyes like last week. And he's got a deal already. You can see where some guys might be like, punk, but if you came in there going, hey, here's something for everybody or whatever, and maybe that might even be something where they get offended by, like, I don't need your money, or it could be so bad. So I don't know. I don't know. It's like one of those things where it was sounds like a great idea, and the unintended consequences are going to make it really bad, So I hope it doesn't, but time's going to tell.
Yeah, I mean, a guy skipping his senior year, I just think that's kind of outrageous, really. But I mean, it's all because of this NIL thing and the money that they can make. That's really what it's all about. But I hate to see a guy give up his senior year in high school.
Oh yeah, the state of Texas will not allow high school players to earn NIL, so that's why he's foregoing his senior.
Right.
I think he's already graduated class-wise, so therefore he's just leaving early. But still, it's about the money. If the money wasn't there, he'd still be in high school. So that, I'm completely on board with you. No offense to his parents, but I wonder who his parents are. No big deal. But that's just you and I, we're old school. We wouldn't let our kids do that. So.
Yeah.
Unless they were giving me $1 million.
Yeah, there you go. And then the thing is, they're talking about, a lot of this conference stuff happening in 2025. Well, until 2025, we're going to see the same thing that we talked about almost all last year. We're going to see the same 5 or 6 teams, the ones that are recruiting at the best. It's going to be, it's going to be those teams. Until it changes to more teams in the playoffs. That's the only thing that's the only thing that's really going to change that. Other than that, they're going to take 4 teams, and you got 6 teams that are vying for those 4 spots, and it's going to be those same teams because year after year, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. I mean, throw Oklahoma in there, and then possibly, Texas A&M, Georgia.
Right.
Those teams are the ones that recruit the best, and I can't see anybody knocking them out of that top 4. So I mean, that's not going to change until they go to more teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it pretty much revolves around who recruits the best. For the most part. I mean, there's outliers sometimes, and somebody does a slip up, a bad fumble here or whatever. But it doesn't seem to really be happening, it happens more when the big dogs are playing each other. You know, they're taking care
Oh
of
yeah,
business against the other ones. But then, so it's all going to come down to you got the best recruits against the best recruits. So who's going to show up that day and play better and scheme better. And like Alabama last year, it was a decent game till about 5 minutes before halftime, and then they just blew the doors off the Buckeyes. And I give all the credit in the world for sure to the coaching staff with Sarkisian. Man, he just drew it up, and Ohio State never had an answer for any of those receivers, and they just got torched. So that's the way it goes. But it's still 4 and 5 stars on 4 and 5 stars all the way around with those top four. And Notre Dame was in there last year, and they played Alabama really good compared to the way a lot of other teams played them. So it's like. This is one of those things, and but that kind of transitions into my next thing is let's forget about all that and let's talk football this season, because all that's not going to happen until 2025. Right now we got 2021. Let's talk about 2021. We got a real quick topic to talk about: preseason rankings. Puke. I'm so sick of preseason rankings because they never ranked on anything other than last year, and last year doesn't mean squat. And case in point, Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, 3 of the top 4. Notre Dame, all 4 of them aren't bringing back the quarterback from last year. Yes, they're putting in top recruits to do it, but still, Ohio State's going into camp doesn't have a quarterback that threw a pass last year, because C.J. Stroud, he did a couple runs and stuff, and he never threw a pass. So when's the last time you can say that your favorite team's doesn't have a quarterback in the room that threw a pass last year? So, conventional wisdom is, they'll be fine, and they probably will, but you never know. I mean, barring injuries, you still never know. I mean, so I got a neat game I want to play with you. Okay, you got $1,000, and you must bet your own money $1,000, and yes or no, will blank win a national championship in the next 5 years. So the first team I'll throw in there is, now this is like, you're betting your own money, so how are you going to bet? Yes or no, will this team win a national championship in the next 5 years? Oregon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah, that'd be a tough bet. I mean, especially if you're talking Georgia, because they've seemed to underachieve. We've heard all about them the last three or 4 years. I think, of course, they're returning a lot of people. And, Ohio State and Alabama both, I mean, neither one of those quarterbacks got much, hardly any time, like you were saying. The only 2 teams that really had significant time was the guy at Clemson and the guy at Georgia.
Right.
And of course, Oklahoma, they're in the big picture of that. Sorry, kind of getting away from what you originally asked, but
I mean, like, because I'm headed towards a point. But I mean, if you had to put money on Georgia for yes or no, would you say yes or no? You're gonna win $1,000 if you guess it right. So which one do you think is a better guess? Especially how hard it is to win a national championship. You think Georgia will win one in 5 years, sometime in the next 5 years?
Well, I think maybe this year might be their best chance.
It could be. There's no doubt. This, on paper, there's no doubt. So would you say yes or no?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. How about Oregon out in the Pac-12?
No.
Okay. USC.
USC's probably got the best shot. I think they're gonna come on a little bit, and I see them coming back. But I'm still gonna say no.
I'm with you on those 2 all the way. Oklahoma.
Woo. See, that's another one that I would say is their time would have to be now.
Right now,
of course,
I believe. I'm with you.
Yeah, their time would have to be now, and they've got the quarterback and they've got the returning players. So I would $1,000. Yeah, they seem. They seem to. They're kind of like Georgia. They seem to underachieve at the wrong time, and it's
right.
So, I'm gonna say no on that one, but that's a close one.
like I said, I mean, I know some people might be watching this going, "Hey, it's only $1,000," but to you and me, $1,000 is a lot of money. So,
Well, yeah, wow. Yeah, well, $1,000, sure, I'll bet on all of them.
yeah, no doubt. So here's an interesting one because now they got a new coach, Texas. Do you think Stark will turn them around in 5 years?
No.
Nope. Okay. Ohio State.
I'd say yes. I mean,
Uh,
Ohio State's recruiting right now is probably better than anybody's. Now, if it stays that way, and if the guys,
Oh
stay
yeah.
with the team, with the transfer porter and all that, that could all change.
Oh, there's no doubt.
But I mean, they've been there. Um, and Ohio State's another one. They can't pull a Purdue or Iowa like they did over the last few years.
Yeah,
I mean, they can't
right.
have those kind of losses.
No. Honestly, as much as I love JT Barrett, and I really did love the guy, I thought he was a fantastic college quarterback, and he set all kinds of Ohio State records, mostly because Ohio State's never had a fantastic quarterback that played for 4 years. So he broke all the records, But he wasn't Haskins, and he certainly wasn't Justin Fields. So quarterback play, I think, will cost you in certain games, and I don't put it all on him, but it does change things. If you're down, to come back, and to stay up if you're up. So, Michigan.
I mean, we've had this.
I love your reaction, by the way.
Well, we've had this discussion before, and I truly thought Harbaugh was going to come in there, bring Michigan back,
Right.
give the rivalry back to Ohio State. But, it hasn't happened. And one of the big things, I look at the Big Ten, and honestly, I know there's some decent teams there, but really you can call it the Big One. Because you look at who's doing the recruiting, who's getting the 5-star guys, who's getting the 4-star guys, and I know Penn State has quite a few 4-star guys right now,
Sure.
but everybody else is going to close that gap, and those other schools right now are not keeping up with Ohio State. Ohio State keeps separating itself more and more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am a Buckeye fan, but like you and I both call it, we call it like we see it. We don't homer it up. Before Urban Meyer got there, Ohio State was Jim Tressel's team, and they, Tressel ball. They hardly ever went undefeated. They usually lost a couple games, found their way. And this is before the Big Ten championship game. Urban, right when he got out of the gate, he ran the table and won every game. And then he just starts recruiting like crazy. And then by the time they won the national championship, it was this really big separation in talent between them and the rest of the Big Ten. And then Harbaugh came in, and it was like, I was like you, I'm thinking, okay, now we're going to have the next Woody and Bo thing going. And they got close. I think it was 2017, that really tight game where it was 4th and whatever, and they didn't get the call and all that. But other than that, it's, and one thing a lot of the people say is Harbaugh has not got a top quarterback, and to win now, you got to have a top quarterback, and it wasn't always like that. When even Saban, when in the beginning of his Alabama terror, he was defense and running game, and put anybody behind center. Just don't lose the game for us. We're going to cram the ball down your throat. We're going to beat you up on the line, and you're not going to score any points. And then when Manziel came in, and everybody started opening things up, I give Saban credit. He's like, we got to change, and they have changed, and now they're getting top QBs and top wide receivers, and they still got great running backs and linemen and defense. So,
well, here's the big thing, and look at what we've seen the last 2 years. Joe Burrow and LSU, that was all about offense, and a defense just good enough to get a few stops that they were pretty much unstoppable. Last year, Alabama, same thing. And I don't know that we're ever going to see a shutdown defense again. One, the rules are against the defense. Two, everybody's going after the quarterback's the wide receiver. And then the other big thing to me is look at these offensive coordinators that are coming in. They are putting together stuff that that is really good, and these are the best guys in the friggin' country to do this stuff. So that right there is what's going to make the big difference. So this year, what are we going to see? I think it's going to be all offense again. And, a defense good enough to get a few stops because other teams are going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be throwing it. They're going to be spreading it out. They're going to be getting the ball to their playmakers. So kind of like what you said, the old school play defense, shut down defense, run the football. And don't get me wrong, you got to have, some type of running game and balance. But
Sure.
The offensive coordinators have come so far along. The athletes are come so far along, and the rules are really against the defense.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I got a host of other teams on this list, but let's kind of run through real quick. And basically, I agree with everyone you said. I can't put money on Oregon and USC. I could put money on Oklahoma in the next 5 years. Texas, I'm guessing probably not. I just don't know what Sarkisian is going to be able. Is he going to be able to get that team where nobody else seems to have done it since Mac Brown left? Ohio State, I think, has got a decent chance. I don't know if they will, but I would put money on it. And obviously, I'm a Buckeye fan, but at the same time, I'm saying it's because they do recruit very well. If they didn't recruit very well, when Tressel came to the Michigan or Ohio State, all I cared about was beating Michigan because of watching Cooper lose to Michigan. I literally said to a good friend of mine, I don't care if we lose every game. I just want to beat Michigan. I'm sick of losing. But 20 years later, you got bigger things on the horizon than beating Michigan anymore. So Penn State, I have on the list. As much as I think James Franklin's a great coach, and I think he has recruited very well, I can't say in the next 5 years they're going to win the national championship. That's a tough one. LSU,
I don't think so.
Joe Burrow's gone, Joe Brady's gone. That was a beautiful 1 year. I don't see LSU winning a national championship in the next 5 years. I could be dead wrong, but it seems like they're the same team they were before Burrow and Brady came in and had that great lightning year with the rest of those players. They get great players at LSU. There's no doubt about it. They recruit great players. It's just that coaching staff got the people to get it in the right spot.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a big difference in LSU this year. Last year, of course, they were LSU and Alabama the last 2 years, LSU pretty much lost everything. And,
right.
They weren't able to bounce back. They started a lot of freshmen. But I think LSU is going to be a much better team. And
I think they'll be better than they were last year. There's no doubt.
Yeah, a lot better. And I think they're a team that's probably could that's going to knock off one of the big boys and make things real interesting.
I got a question on that one. That's topic. After LSU, I got Florida. I think they lost a lot this past year going into this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what they look like in 5 years. And then Texas A&M, I feel a little bit better about Ohio State and Texas A&M when it comes to winning the national championship, and that's probably because of Texas A&M playing in the West of the SEC. If you put Texas A&M in the Big Ten and you put them in an opposite side of Ohio State, I think them and Ohio State are meeting every year. They're that good of a team, but they're in the wrong division and the wrong conference to get past all those tough schools. And then Alabama, and literally the whole list, if I had only picked one team, I'd pick Alabama because as long as Saban's there, they haven't gone 5 years without winning a championship since he's been there.
That's true.
So I would pick that team. Yeah, I'd pick out if I'm going to put $1,000. That's a lot of money. I'm picking Alabama as much as I love Ohio State. $1,000, $1,000. So you were talking about knocking off teams. Some of the. What do you think of Ole Miss? Do you expect Ole Miss to be a lot better this year? They were good last year, but are they going to make Are they making a jump up with Lane Kiffin, or are they going to be somebody that can really challenge the West?
I think that they will be a lot of what they were last year. I think that they'll be more consistent. The problem with them last year is 1 week, man. They look like the world beaters, top 5 team, and then the next week they look like they didn't even belong in the top 50. So I think that they'll be a lot more consistent. I think that the SEC West is getting really interesting. Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. LSU's coming back, and of course, Alabama. And then on the other side of that is basically 2 teams, Florida and Georgia.
Hey, quick note, because we talked about this a lot last year. We actually got some people commenting. So I wanted to reach out. There's a James Lill. He's dying for us to talk about. I'll put it up here. Week zeros point spreads for the next week's games. I got that list. We'll bring it up. I don't have the spreads because I don't have them on there, but we'll talk about who we think is going to win and lose. And then Mark Sawyer, if I'm saying that right,
Yeah.
says Fletcher Randy, somebody you know, or says Fletcher Randy, you both are spot on the paying players for their likeness going to open Pandora's box. My question has the gap in the ACC closing on Clemson from teams like North Carolina, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Recruiting, I don't think so, but definitely on the field and UNC, you know, they got their quarterback Howe, you know, from last year still there. They did lose some. The thing with them last year was they couldn't stop. They'd score points, but then they just let people score. People can score on.
Right.
So it's just going to be a shootout. You know, the new quarterback at Clemson, is he going to be as good as Trevor Lawrence? Probably not. I don't think the guy in Ohio State is going to be as good as Justin Fields. So your quarterback play comes down some, you know, a little. So now you got to rely on who your running backs are and who's on. And I think somebody said that Clemson lost some coordinators. It wasn't what's his face on defense. Can't think of that guy's name, but he's never leaving there. But they pay their coordinators a lot of money. So
They
I
do.
think Virginia Tech, I think a lot of people are expecting to be good this year because if not, that guy is probably losing his job. And Miami is, who knows? They got that transfer quarterback from Houston, Derek King, however you say his name.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of him, so we just got to see coming out of the gate. I really don't think they're going to challenge Miami. I'm sorry, Alabama. Somebody was saying, hey, that's at Miami. It's not. It's at the Mercedes-Benz Dome out in Atlanta, I think. So one thing I can give, you know, people can cry all they want, but a lot of people say Saban never plays a non-conference game on the road. He plays it in a neutral site. Well, you know what? When you win them all, you can do that. So, you know, but it's all about the money. It's all about the money. Big stadium, big bucks. And Alabama brings in the big dollars. So I think the TV people want those in the big stadiums.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, you know, to going back to the ACC thing, you know, I do think that some of those teams have closed the gap on Clemson. I don't know that they've closed it enough to be actually be competitive with them. I think that there'll be some good games, and you know, I shouldn't say not competitive. They'll be competitive, but I still don't think, you know, Clemson's still the class of that conference.
I think a couple other teams.
I see the teams coming. You know, they are closing that gap a little bit.
A couple other teams I see that I liked. I haven't investigated who they got coming back from last year, but Boston College gave them a lot of fits last year, and that seems to be a pretty stout squad the guys building up there. And then the other one was Pitt. You know, that's the guy from Michigan State that's been there, Pat Narduzzi. That's a tough out. So, but those teams, along with North Carolina, I think Mac Brown. We know what he did in Texas. Can he do the same thing in North Carolina? That's where he was before. I think he can. I don't know if he will, but I think he can. I don't know if it's going to be this year. But he definitely has a great quarterback.
They would have to one of those teams would have to have a you know, a great effort, and you know, probably get some breaks you know, to beat Clemson. They would almost have to because you know, much like I was talking about Ohio State in the Big Ten, Clemson the same thing in the ACC. Those other teams are just not bringing in the guys to be as deep. I mean, you know, they might have a quarterback that's as good or a running back that's as good, but they're not going to be as deep as Clemson is. So, you know, like I said, I think they've closed the gap a little bit, but it's probably not enough.
Yeah, I personally think, and this isn't a homer, this is an honest analysis, I think the gap is closer to Clemson and the teams behind them than it is to Ohio State and the teams behind them. I think I saw a graphic the other day that only one of the ACC schools at one time or another has not been in the top 25 of the CFP. Well, I thought, wow, is that for real? You know, so that means a lot of their schools are decent. You know, they're getting in that top 25. Well, how long they stay there, who knows? Where teams like Vanderbilt and I don't even know Purdue or whatever. There's so many in the Big Ten that just don't got a prayer for getting in there, yet. So who knows? But let's take a look at this conference schedule. The next week there's like 5 games. This is week 0, they're calling it. I don't see the point spread, so I apologize for that to the viewer. But Nebraska is playing Illinois. That's a Big Ten matchup. That's at 1 o'clock on Fox. That's Saturday. I'm going to give the nod to Illinois on this one. We got Brett Bielema coming back to the Big Ten, and Nebraska is kind of a mess with all these distractions of the analysts and stuff doing. I heard a thing about all that. And basically, if you're an analyst, you're not a coach. You're not allowed to tell somebody, "Hey, move your hips in and out." All of a sudden, you're coaching, and you get fined. I'm like, really? That's what that's what's going on. But and fractions and all that. But Illinois at home. I would take them. I don't know what the spread is, so don't quote me on no spread or anything. I hate betting against the spread, anyways. But UConn and Fresno State. I got nothing on that game for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take UCLA to beat Hawaii, and that's at the Rose Bowl. I actually heard that. No. That's the first one. But when the next week is LSU at UCLA, and I heard today that UCLA is giving away free tickets to all the fans. They're going to try to fill the stadium with as many UCLA fans as they can because they know LSU is going to travel. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. And then UTEP and Mexico State and Southern Utah and San Jose. I apologize to the viewer. We're not really guys that do the spreads, as far as when it comes to point spreads, it's just something we're not strong in. So I do apologize for that. But as far as the matchup goes, I'll probably catch a little bit of Nebraska and Illinois just because I'm dying to watch some football, and that's the first one on. So
Yeah.
But
I'm like most people. I'm waiting for Clemson and Georgia.
Yeah,
that right there is, it ain't going to get any better than that, and that's going to tell us an awful lot.
Yeah, that's week 1's prime time for sure game. There's a few of them, not like that, but Penn State and Wisconsin are playing right out of the gate. That's got a lot of Big Ten implications on this. So that's a heck of a game to watch. There's no doubt. Clemson, Georgia, 3 and 5. Throw those numbers out the window. It's just Clemson and Georgia, and a lot of good recruits. That's what it's really all about. I think is that not the same week that Alabama is playing Miami? I think it is, right?
Yeah, they play on the 4th.
So, yes, yeah. So Oklahoma, Tulane. There's a huge amount of games I'm just fiddling through here, but Miami and Alabama. There it is. So, and that is at the Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, like I said. So Indiana and Iowa, Big Ten game. I'll be interested in seeing how good or bad Indiana looks from last year because they had the first time they've ever beaten Penn State and Michigan State and somebody else in the same year. So kudos for them. Having something they've never done before that Ohio State does every year. But anyways, Georgia and Clemson. The next week is Oregon and Ohio State marquee game. At the shoe, the week 2, if you will. There's a lot of good matchups coming down this year, and it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to fan-filled stadiums, big crowds, craziness, game day, everything just the way it was 2.5 years ago, whatever. So.
Yeah, Oregon's going to wish that they didn't book that game. I can tell you that right now.
I hope you're right.
I don't see it.
I hope you're right. And once again, they're traveling. I think I give outside the recruiting, I give Ohio State edge for being at home. But at the same time, they're starting a brand new quarterback. First time he's going to see really live, football game. Second time, really, because the first game is Minnesota. I'm a little more worried about Minnesota because that's on the road at Minnesota. And PJ Fleck, he can coach. He's the kind of guy that can pull a Purdue or pull a Iowa. He did it to Penn State a couple of years ago where everybody's thinking, okay, this is the game they're going to lose, and they go on and beat Penn State. So hopefully Ryan Day's got them ready and they roll them like they should. But yeah, absolutely. But what I was going to say here is I don't want to pick winners. Let's pick who's going to be in the championship games of the big Power 5 conferences. So who do you got? Who do you think is going to make it to the Big Ten championship game?
What do you have? What'd you say?
The Power 5 championship games. I'll give you my championship games. In the Big Ten, I'm just going to go with Ohio State and Wisconsin because I don't see anybody else on either side knocking those guys off.
Oh, no.
Other than injuries. In the ACC, I'm going to take Clemson on their side, and I'm going with Pitt, Pat Narduzzi on the other side. And the Big 12 is still intact. It's still got Oklahoma and Texas for about 3 or 4 more years. So I'm taking Iowa State and Oklahoma to be the top 2 in that one.
Yeah, I think so.
And then USC and Oregon because I think I kind of wanted to take Arizona State, but they got some infractions coming down that might even keep them from being able to do the postseason. So I'm just not going to pick them. But they got a lot of talent, but they got a lot of problems too. So I haven't put down the SEC yet. I was definitely going to take Alabama on that side, and I was going to take Georgia. And you probably got the same picks. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of tough this early in the season, you know.
Yeah, well, like I said, the Big Ten, I'm calling it the Big One. Even Ohio State's going to go there against. I'm going to say Wisconsin, the ACC, Clemson. Could they play North Carolina in the championship game?
I got it right here. Let me look at the.
Is that possible?
I want to, because I want to say they're on the same side. That's why I didn't pick North Carolina. But let's see here, Clemson. No. Yeah, they can. They can play. Yep, they can. So they are.
I'll go.
On opposite sides.
Yeah, I would say those. I would say North Carolina and Clemson there. The Big 12, Oklahoma. Then I'm going to go with Iowa State. Everybody's all hopped up on Iowa State. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I'll go with those 2. Out west, USC. I'll go with what you said. USC and Oregon. Then the SEC. Alabama, Georgia. I think Florida. Florida and Georgia is probably going to be one heck of a ball game. But I will say this: I'm a huge Alabama fan, but I'll tell you right now, they should not be ranked number 1. I don't believe that they should. I think there's lots of question marks. I think if this quarterback from Miami has a big game, we might be a little surprised. I'm not saying they'll win, but we might be really surprised at how competitive that game is. A program just can't lose 8 or 9 guys that go in the first round.
Right.
And then also lose 11 coaches.
Yep.
And I know they replaced them with some NFL guys and all that, but I mean, come on, man, you lost an awful lot, and they always do every year. But yeah. I don't remember them ever losing 11 coaches. 2 or 3 or 4 maybe, but 11. So this is going to be a whole new thing. You got a quarterback that didn't get any significant time. They're all hyped up about him, but when I watched him play last year, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy, he's not very good. But of course, that was unfair to him because he was mopping up,
right.
most of the things. But with that big changeover, I got them like 4th or 5th. I don't have them number 1. The guys that are returning a whole bunch. I've got Oklahoma, Clemson, Georgia, then probably Ohio State, Alabama, right there, 4 or 5.
Right.
That's my opinion.
I definitely disagree. I'm sorry, I definitely agree. I had Oklahoma. If you're going to go on, all you can't go on is last year. So if you're going to go on last year, and what I mean last year is the team, what they wore last year, and who they're bringing back. Who's on the
right.
squad this year. So technically, it's not really looking at last year at all. Who's on the team now? Oklahoma's returning more starters than anybody, and they got Rattler. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's a great quarterback or not, he was exciting and he did a lot of great things. He messed up earlier in the season. He had a lot of bad, but he was a young guy learning. And Lincoln Riley seems like he has been an upgrade from Bob Stoops, and that's no offense to Bob Stoops at all, but Lincoln Riley seems like he's taken the reins with that and hasn't gone down at all. They haven't seemed to put a win in the CFP in yet. And honestly, I think like Ohio State's troubles when they got to the CFP, and even Notre Dame's is they don't play in great conferences. Notre Dame is playing a conference where you're getting really good games against top talent week in, week out that prepares you to get to that, and then play teams like Clemson and Alabama, who were just loaded. Especially nowadays, the team Alabama had on the field last year would have destroyed the first year Nick Saban won the championship. I mean, the squad is that much better. The players are that much better.
Right.
The coach is that much better. Everything's better. So everything's getting better. You just got to keep up. So, yeah, absolutely. I would have had Oklahoma number 1. I would have had probably, yeah, I was trying to think the other day, who was it? I think I really want to put North Carolina number 2 because they got a returning quarterback, but they lost a lot of players. It was really tough, so, I think, it's just tough to see who, what, where, and all that, but definitely had Oklahoma number 1. I think I had Ohio State 3, and I might have had Alabama 2, honestly, and that was mere for recruiting, Oh, Georgia, I'm sorry, that's it, Georgia with that quarterback, and JT Daniels. They're number 2. Granted, you can't go off what they've done. They seem to fall short. But you got to look at them on paper and who they got returning, and they're definitely one of the better teams coming back with starters. Yeah, LSU is coming back with a ton of freshmen that are now sophomores, so that team's going to have a lot to prove that it was much better than they were last year. So, yeah, and only Texas A&M. Texas A&M, they're talking the talk. I can't remember what the date is on that game in Alabama, but Jimbo Fisher is throwing down the gauntlet, so we're going to see how that works out for him. So.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, you look at who's coming back, and who got significant time or what they're going to do, and basically, I see Oklahoma and Georgia. And you could probably throw Clemson in there because their guy got a significant amount of time, and he got to play in some big games. So other than that, man, there's still things that we got to see and questions to be answered to find out if these guys are really what we think they are.
Oh yeah, and I was looking. Let's see if I can find them on here because they're not in a conference, but. I was looking at the schedule for Notre Dame because Notre Dame being independent, a lot of people like to talk about the Irish, and let me just find their school real quick so I can click on wherever they are. Oh man, it's going to be. They have what I believe is. I've been calling here it is. They play Florida State opening game. I think it's their first game. Yeah, and they, I think they'll win that game. It's at Florida State, but I don't think Florida State's got enough with the guy from Memphis yet. Maybe a couple more years, but Notre Dame, they play FSU, then they play Toledo, they play Purdue, Wisconsin, they play Cincinnati, which I think is a tough game. I think they'll win it, but it's not like it's a cupcake. Virginia Tech, USC, North Carolina, Navy, always a tough one to play the Shipmen, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Stanford. That's a tough schedule. It's not blue bloods, but it's not cupcake stuff. So, and they're not bringing back. Ian Book's gone. They've got a new quarterback. So who knows what's going to happen? I talked to a guy. He's a father of another girl on my girls' soccer team. He's a local guy, and he's a big Irish fan. He was telling me how I didn't even know this. There's a lot of local tie-ins to the Irish. Marcus Freeman from Wayne is out there coaching. I think he's their defensive coordinator. He came from Cincinnati under Fickle. There's a few other guys that have local ties to the Dayton area, and they're on the Irish squad, for coaching and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But but the thing about the Irish is, unfortunately, except for last year, they can't afford one loss. It seems like because they're not in a conference, they don't play conference championship. They get one loss, and everybody just writes them off. So they can't afford to lose any of those games, So that's my take on the Irish. Is I just think it's too hard for them to get there, and when they do, even like last year, even though I think it was a great team last year, they can't. I don't know if it's changed or not, but the knock on the Irish years ago was they have such high standards for academics they can't recruit the best players. I don't know if they've changed any of that so they can get better players. But if that's something that doesn't happen, then they're behind the eight ball just to begin with. With not getting the top recruits. So they got a great coach, but I don't know if he's
Notre,
going to. I
yeah,
don't know if he's going to win the national championship, ever at that
no,
school, and that's not a knock on him.
well, Notre Dame got a real bad rap last year, I thought. Alabama's offense was amazing last year. There was no stopping them. But who played them tougher than anybody in the country? It was Notre Dame. They held them to the least amount of yards, the least amount of points, and I think they got a bad rap. Oh, they don't belong there. They get beat again. Well, if you're going to beat up Notre Dame, then there's a lot of other top 6 or 7 teams that you can hammer on too that got blown out.
Yeah.
So.
I completely agree. Yeah, they were the least blown out, if you will, say it for lack of a better phrase. You can. If Ohio State played Notre Dame last year, that probably would have been a much closer game than some Ohio State fans think. And maybe even Clemson. So yeah, Clemson. I think it's very possible Notre Dame. Well, they beat Clemson once and they lost to them again, but third time, I think they might have been a better team, except at the quarterback position. And that Trevor Lawrence was, a generational quarterback. There's no doubt. I don't know how good he's going to be in the NFL, but in college, the guy was pretty decent. But lucky for Ohio State fans, he didn't have a great game against us the last time we played him, so that was pretty good.
Well, that's some of those games. People put they bring it up over and over again, like Oklahoma Florida game. That first Notre Dame Clemson game. Of course, Clemson's quarterback was out. They had a couple defensive guys out too, I'm pretty sure. And everybody's, well, look what Oklahoma did to Florida. Well, I'm not all that impressed about it because Florida's top 7 weapons were not even playing, and it really hurt Trask to play in that game. He should not have played in that game. That did nothing.
Talked about that.
That hurt him all the way around.
I completely agree because I thought that guy was I think he was a walk-on and he won the job. He was locker room loved him. He was a great, nice, big arm, kind of a big kid. And boy, he just got torched in that game. It's like leaving a goalie out there after 9 goals, Yeah, with all those players opting out, he should have never played in that game because it definitely hurt him in a draft.
And I, honestly, I hate to say that because he was being a stand-up guy. Hey, I'm going to play. Give him credit for that. But, then you look, I think it actually hurt him in his draft.
Yeah, I think it did too.
That game had a big impact on him. So, as much as I admire the guy for what he did, it just, in the long run, it just wasn't the best thing for him.
It'll be interesting to see if wherever he went in the NFL, if he gets a chance to start and wins the job, he's the one quarterback that they're not talking about out of last year. So this could be the best quarterback draft ever with Fields and Wilson, or I can't think of half those guys' names. The guy from BYU and the guy from the Division two school.
That Trey Lance or whatever his name was.
Yeah, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. But they're not talking about
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones.
Yeah.
They're definitely not talking about Trask, and who knows, he might end up going somewhere and starting and having a great career. I to be honest with you, and this is a butt kissing kind of thing. I remember when Tua went down and I was watching Mac Jones, I said, this guy really, he's not Tua, he's a totally different quarterback, but he's got a nice arm and he's very accurate. And that was 2 years ago, his last year. Yeah, I wasn't surprised how good he was. I really wasn't, because he was just, so I think he can get that job in a year or two, at the Patriots,
I think so.
I think he's that good. And, and I definitely think Justin Fields is going to be a great quarterback with the Bears. There's no doubt. So who knows?
Well, we'll find out. But the one thing he benefited from last year was, they probably had the best offensive line in the country. Along with the best wide receivers. So, we'll find out.
Oh yeah. It's people talk about, this guy didn't win anything with his team. Well, you know what? It's a team sport. Dan Marino didn't win any Super Bowls, but it's not because he wasn't a fantastic quarterback. It's just so hard to win championships at any level, NFL, college. You can have so many things great and still not win it because for a million reasons. So it's just hard to win a championship, except for
Yeah.
Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Nick Saban's like, it's not that hard, you know. But so answer me a question real quick. I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly. When Nick Saban was at LSU, he won a national championship, didn't he?
At LSU?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then he went to Miami, and then he came out. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right.
So
Yeah.
thought I remember that correctly. So, all right, man. Hey, dude,
Well,
that's
he actually,
What's
I said actually he won at LSU, and in my opinion, he really set Les Miles up to win one there too.
Yeah.
Those were all Nick Saban's guys.
Yeah, Les Miles. You know, I'm not saying he wasn't good or great coach or anything like that. He was good. You know, but he definitely took Saban's stuff and won that national championship against the Buckeyes. There's no
Right.
doubt. You know. And that was a heartbreaker for me because that was when Ohio State I felt shouldn't really even been there. That was when everybody lost in that last week, and Ohio State just kept moving up to BCS. And next thing you know, they were like the last team standing because they didn't have another game because there was no championship game in the Big Ten then. And they had a great running back in Beanie Wells, and they actually. I remember the next day looking at the box scores. Man, we outgained them. We outdid this, but we also turned the ball over. You know, so yeah, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, Saban won one there, and he's won 6 at Alabama, right? 6 and 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
See, 9,
Yeah, it's,
11, 12, 15, 17. Yep.
Yeah, so he's you know, it's kind of like Michael Jordan and all these other guys. I feel fortunate to have witnessed what I consider greatness in certain sports in my lifetime. You know, I think Tiger Woods is one of a great golfer, not the greatest of all time, but a great golfer. I think Mike Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. I think Jerry Rice is phenomenal. I think Montana's phenomenal. Nick Saban's phenomenal. Bill Belichick's phenomenal. I mean, it's great. It's a great time to be a college football fan with the outside of the NIL and all that other stuff that's coming down the road. But you know what? Nobody really knows what it's going to do. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. So,
Right.
I just hope the noise stops and we watch good football, and that's what really matters to it. Hopefully, everybody will kind of get their heads back on straight and do something that's good for the league for everybody and the kids. So, but hey, man, we've been almost an hour, and we've got our first live comments on the air. Things are looking up for this show, man. People can recognize that we tell it like it really is. We're not homering it up, so. We're not playing any OHIO or Roll Tide songs, you know, just keeping it real. So we'll be here next Friday and every Friday, 7 o'clock. I didn't even give the whole Facebook and YouTube things that I should have, but if you're watching us on Facebook, like and share, please. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a subscribe and click the bell so you can get the notifications so you don't miss the show. And if you do miss it, you can catch us on demand because it records on those platforms right after we're done. So it's been a great week 1, week 0, I guess we'll call this. Next week we'll have a look at the week 0 game, a couple of them, but we're going to probably dig into the week after that, which is we're going to setting up the big first week because games start on Thursday and we're going on Friday. So we'll definitely be setting it up for the following week. So looking forward to it, man. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, college football. Hey, you been to Butts Barbecue yet?
Do what?
You been to Butts Barbecue yet in Fairborn?
I have not. You told me about that the other day. You know, the prior place that it was, I had no luck there whatsoever. So I just haven't tried the new place yet. But I'll give it a try.
We've been there 3 times and I have not been disappointed. I've had 3 different things and everything's been great. So I am thoroughly impressed. And I had been to the place before. We don't need to name names. And it was nothing it was not horrible, but I was like, I never made my way back. I think I was there to watch the Ohio State game that wasn't on TV. But I like Butts Barbecue. They're making some really good food.
Yeah, they're having Marion's Pizza over there. I don't think there's going to be any left for me.
Well, you better go.
All right.
All right, man. Everybody, we'll see you all next Friday night, 7 o'clock right here on Fletch Entertainment Network. So until then, take it easy and have a good one.